Assalamu alaikum everyone. I am Shawar Zara and today our topic of discussion is overlapping genes. So let's start our topic. Overlapping genes are also called as dual coding genes. They are basically the regions of DNA or RNA that are translated in two different reading frames to yield two different proteins. Means that two different reading frames will produce two different proteins, and reading frame is basically the sequence of nucleotide that is later on translated in the polypeptides. Overlapping genes, they were first detected in the genome of bacteriophage Phi X174. You can also pronounce it as Phi X174. Both Phi and Phi are correct. And for a long period of time, it was thought that these overlapping genes they are strictly restricted to viruses. However, later on, the computational as well as experimental analysis conducted, it has shown that the prokaryotes as well as eukaryotes they contain overlapping genes. And the experimental analysis of the eukaryotic genome, it has shown that this eukaryotic genome they contain numerous undetected overlapping genes. Now let's see the reasons that why biologists are interested in these overlapping genes. So basically there are three major reasons for which these overlapping genes has fascinated biologists over the period of time. So the first reason is overprinting. What happened is that these overlapping genes they encode proteins that are originated de novo by the process of overprinting instead of the general processes, or you can say well characterized processes such as gene duplication or horizontal gene transfer. De novo here means new proteins. So these overlapping genes they can encode proteins that are produced by overprinting. So what is overprinting? In this process, what happens is that the mutation takes place in the ancestral reading frame. And reading frame, I have told you in the previous slide that what it means. So due to this mutation, what happened that this mutation it allowed the expression of the second reading frame, that is your de novo frame, means that is your new frame. And but during this process, the expression of the first frame it is preserved. So this is basically the entire process of overprinting through which the proteins are produced, and these overlapping genes they are capable of encoding these such proteins. Now let's discuss the characteristics of de novo proteins. Though these de novo proteins they have been little studied, but they are known to play an important role in the following processes. You can see there. The major role these de novo protein it plays is in the viral pathogenicity. So what is viral pathogenicity? It is basically the study of how viruses causes diseases in their target hosts. And so what these de novo proteins do is that first process they do is that they neutralize the host interferon response. And interferon, here I will tell you that interferons are basically a group of signaling proteins that are made and that are released by the host cells in response to the presence of several viruses. So what these de novo proteins do is that they neutralize this effect, means that these host interferon proteins cannot detect the viruses that has entered the synthetic biosynthetic machinery that have entered. Okay, the next step that these de novo protein do is that they interfere with the host interferon response, then they interfere with the RNA interference pathway, and they alter this RNA interference pathway. And the last step with these de novo protein are involved is apoptosis. And apoptosis, you are well aware of it, that apoptosis is actually the form of programmed cell death. And you can also, in general terms, you can also say it basically a suicide. And so apoptosis, what happened that the biochemical events in within the cell they lead to the cell changes, and as a result the cell dies. And so these were the basic functions that these de novo proteins play. So the second reason that for the reason that the interesting feature of this overlapping gene is that they represent the clear example of the adaptive conflict. What happens is that because these overlapping genes, they encode two proteins, and the two proteins, I have told you in the previous slides that the two proteins are formed. So what happens is that the freedom of these both proteins to change, it is constrained by each other. And as a result of this feature, what happens is that the ability of the virus to adapt, it severely reduces. So it was the second reason that has fascinated scientists to study these overlapping genes. Now, the third reason is that the gene expression means that by studying these overlapping genes, it has greatly improved the knowledge of the biologists about the gene expression, because the genes they are often expressed through non-canonical methods or mechanism non-canonical. And about non-canonical means that they are not produced by the normal processes that are expected to occur. Instead, they are produced by non-canonical mechanisms such as transcriptional slippage, or you can say alternative splicing, and ribosomal frame shifting. So these, one more is that unconventional translation start site. So these are some of the processes that take place, and they were the new processes. That's why these overlapping genes, they have gained much interest of the biologists. Now let's discuss overlapping genes in Phe X174. The bacteriophage Phe X174, it is an extremely small icosahedral virus. Icosahedral is basically the polyhedron that has 20 faces. And this bacteriophage, it contains a single stranded DNA molecule which consists of 5400 nucleotides, and it is 5400 nucleotides long, and 9 genes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. They are present on this DNA molecule, and they have been identified on this Phe X DNA, and these genes, they encode for 9 specific proteins, and the combined weight of these 9 specific proteins is 250,000 daltons. And the genome of this bacteriophage, it contains around 5400 bases, and it has the maximum capacity for encoding about 1800 amino acid. So it contains 5400 bases, and it can code around 1800 amino acid residues, and the weight of these amino acid residues will be 2 lakh daltons combined weight. So here you can see that the DNA molecule, though it consists of 5400 nucleotides, and the genome contains 5400 bases, but they are capable of producing significantly greater amount of proteins. The mass of protein produced is basically 2 lakh daltons. It's quite great one. To study this bacteriophage, Sanger and Colgan in 1975, Barrett in 1976, and Weisbeek in 1977, they have studied this bacteriophage, and they have revealed several mechanisms that underlies this compact genetic organization in this Phe X DNA. And we will discuss all these mechanisms that were proposed by these scientists in the successive slides. Here you can see the bacteriophage Phe X174, and it has 20 faces. These 20 faces are not visible in this picture, but if you will observe the three-dimensional structure of these bacteriophage, then you will come to know that it contains 20 faces. Here in the picture you can see the internal structure of this bacteriophage, the genes it contains, and the way the genes overlap each other, and we will discuss all these genes and the overlapping process in the successive slides. Now let's discuss that how the genes in the bacteriophage Phe X174 are being overlapped, and what techniques or mechanisms have been employed by the authors that I have named above to understand this overlapping process. So the technique that was employed by the authors, it was restriction mapping, and they have employed this technique, restriction mapping, using several different enzymes such as HIND2, HAE3, HPA2 and ALU1. And what is restriction mapping? Restriction mapping is actually the method that is used to map an unknown segment of DNA, and this is done by breaking the DNA into pieces and then identifying the location of the breakpoints. And for breaking these DNA into pieces, proteins are used that are known as restriction enzymes, and you are familiar with the restriction enzymes. So what these restriction enzymes do, they can cut, they can digest the DNA molecule as short specific sequences, and where these restriction enzymes, they cut this DNA molecule, they produce the restriction sites. These sites are known as restriction sites, and after the DNA segments have been digested, or you can say they have been cut using the restriction enzyme, the resulting fragments that are produced as a result of this cutting, and they are examined in the laboratory by using gel electrophoresis, and you know that gel electrophoresis is used to separate the pieces of DNA according to their size. So this is basically the whole process of restriction mapping, and the authors have employed this process using all the enzymes that I have named. So what happened that after this, by applying the Sanger and Colgan method, that is plus and minus technique for determining the DNA sequence, Barrel I have named before, which has studied these overlapping genes in 1976. Barrel and Weisbach, okay, and Barrel के साथ और भी scientists थे, but major name is Barrel. So he have found the sequencings of the gene D, E and J, and it has also fact the entire sequence जो है ना इसने identify कर लिया था Barrel ने. Here you can I will now tell you about the plus and minus technique. Plus and minus technique is basically it was developed by Colgan, and this method is for rapid DNA sequencing. And so what happened in this technique is that it generates we generate a series of DNA molecules of varying lengths, and these DNA molecules of varying lengths, they can be separated by using polyacrylamide gel. So this is basically the short description of the plus and minus technique which was employed by Barrel, and this technique was produced by Colgan. So what the Barrel found out is that the termination codon of the gene D, it overlaps the initiation codon of the gene J by one nucleotide, okay, and further he observed that the mutation AMB6, I have written here AMB6, that was thought to genetically to lie in the gene J, ठीक है, जो consider किया जा रहा था कि gene J में present होगा, it actually lies 179 nucleotides before the initiation codon for gene J. So it means ये जो है इस चीज़ ने प्रूफ किया कि जो आपके पास gene J है, it actually lies in an other gene, means it overlaps. Then Barrel also he also identified the location of gene E, and this location was identified from two EMBER mutations, AM3 and AM6. And about EMBER I have told you that in the last lecture that the stop codons have been named, that UAG, I have told you all the names, that UAG is named as EMBER, and UGA is OPAL, and so EMBER codon is basically the stop codon UAG, and this mutation in this codon, Barrel observed that the mutation in this EMBER codon, or you can say the UAG codon, it helped him to identify the gene E, and he observed that these both mutations, they lie within the sequence of gene D. Now let's discuss, let's understand this overlapping process through the diagram. Here you can see that in the diagram all the genes are being marked. So the first thing which I have told you in the previous slide, you will come to understand here more clearly, is that the first thing which I told you was that the termination codon of the gene D, it overlaps the initiation codon for the gene J by one nucleotide. So here in the diagram you can see here it is the gene D and here it is gene J. So the termination codon means here it will be of gene D, it overlaps the gene J. It overlaps the initiation codon of gene J by one nucleotide. Because ये सिर्फ एक nucleotide ही यानी कि overlap कर रहे हैं, therefore it is not so much evident here. The next thing which I told you is that the location of gene E, it was identified by two mutations, that was AM3 and AM6. So here you can see that how this gene E, it overlaps the gene D, and we will discuss this overlapping of gene E in the next slide. Here you can see this gene B, it overlaps the gene A, and we will also discuss this in the next slide. Okay, now let's see that how this gene E, it overlaps the gene D. So by determining the Embr mutation, which I have told you before that it is stop codon mutation, UAG mutation, it has been found that this gene E, it is 273 nucleotides long, whereas gene D is 456 nucleotides long. And then they have identified the start, initiation and termination codon of the gene D, and by identifying this termination codon of gene D, termination and initiation codon of gene D, they have concluded that the sequence of gene E, it lies in the later part of gene D. If we will go back to the previous slide, you can see that here where it is written D, so here this gene E, it lies in the later portion, not in the start. And they have observed that this all this which they have studied, it specifies that a protein of about 10,000 Daltons can be produced by this gene. Thus this E gene, it overlaps a portion of gene D, and both these genes, they are translated in two different reading frames in two different phases. So this was all about gene E and gene D. Now let's discuss about gene A and gene B. So Weisbach in 1977, he categorized the genes A and B, and he used basically categorized them by mapping positions of several mutations by using marker rescue technique. Marker rescue technique, if I explain you, is that it is basically the technique that is used to localize the site of mutation within the gene, and a polynucleotide, that is basically the marker, it is used and it is obtained from the known wild type sequence, and then it is allowed to recombine with the mutant genome. And what happens is that if it includes the site of the mutation, it rescues the mutant by causing it to revert. Okay? It will attach to that mutant. So this is basically the marker rescue technique. Because it rescues the mutant by causing it to revert, that's why it is known as marker rescue technique. So what Weisbach, he found that all the mutations in gene B, they have been identified within the sequence of gene A. I have shown you in the previous slide in the diagram. And later when he studied the Embr mutation in the gene A, Embr mutation are seen that the stop codon mutation, he found that the results show that these mutations, they result in the synthesis of shorter chains of A and A star proteins, and these production of this A and A star proteins, they have proved that gene B is completely contained within the gene A, means it is completely like overlaps the gene A, and then it is later on translated in two different reading frames, because I have told you that both the genes, they are translated in two different reading frames. And so later on, then the Smith in 1977, he identified that gene A not only overlaps the gene B but even extends beyond the gene B. So this was the gene A and gene B, that how this overlapping process is present in these genes. Now there is another virus, that is virus G4, and this virus G4 is also identical to the closely related to the bacteriophage Phi X174, and the genes that it contains, they have same order as the gene of Phi X174. And in this virus also, the gene A, it overlaps the gene D, and the gene E, it overlaps the gene D as well. And it also contains a portion of sequence of gene A and C. And by identifying these all the genes, they have found that the last 86 nucleotides of gene A and the first 89 nucleotides of gene C of this virus G4, they together form the sequence of gene K. So 86 nucleotides of gene A plus last 86 nucleotides of gene A plus first 89 nucleotides of gene C, they form gene K. So this was the virus G4 description. Here we will again see the virus Phi X174. Here you can see this B gene, it overlaps the gene A, and this gene A, it extends even beyond the gene B, and this gene E, it is present in the later portion of the gene D, and this gene D, it overlaps the gene J by one nucleotide. So because it is one nucleotide, it is not so much clear here. So this was all the genes, that how these 9 genes in the Phi X174, they overlap each other and in which formation they are present. So now let's discuss different types of overlapping gene. So these types were basically presented by Engva Godwell, and it is published in his paper that is about changing paradigms in cell biology. So if you want to discuss, or you want to read it further, you can read from there. So the first picture, before I start, first understand this thing, that this in the dark color, that is dark maroon, or you can say dark red, it is basically, it denotes the coding sequence, whereas this light blue color, it denotes the untranslated region. So we will start from the first one. This first one, it denotes basically the genes that are sharing the same locus on the same strand. However, they are coding for different proteins. So these both are genes and they are sharing the same locus on the same strand. Then you have figure B. In figure B, basically the genes are shown that are sharing promoter region, means that are sharing, this is green one, it is the promoter region. You can see here it is a promoter region, and these both genes, they are sharing it. Now, okay, then you have the third type, and it is basically it is the nested genes. And the nested genes are basically the genes whose entire coding sequence, it lies within the bounds, or you can say between the start and stop codons of the larger external gene. Here in the blue one, not, it's orange one, it is a nested gene, and here you can see that it is the external host genome. So the start and the this sequence of this gene, it lies within the start and the stop codon of this larger gene. So it is a nested gene, means it is nested inside. It was the third one. Here you can see the same, and this same one is the nested gene they have shown, and you can see that the entire region of this smaller gene, here it lies within the boundaries of this larger one. Then you have in the figure D, you have embedded gene. Embedded gene is basically the genomic sequence, is actually the genomic sequence of one gene. It is totally contained in another gene, not in another gene, but it is totally contained in another, and it is, means it is embedded. You can see here, I will make you understand it. You can see here, this is the one gene, this is second gene, and the genomic sequence of this gene, okay, it is totally embedded in this one. So it was the embedded gene. Then you have another type, that is E1. In the E1, you can see here it denotes basically the genes that are on opposite strands, and they have overlapping locus but not, they do not overlap in the axonic region. Axonic region means that is coding region, and I have told you that the red one, it denotes the coding sequence. So you can see that this coding sequence, they do not overlap this coding sequence. The F1 is tail to tail coding, and the G1 is basically head to head overlap, and it involves three UTRs and coding sequence. UTR is basically the untranslated region, and it is basically the untranslated region, and it is about UTR is you can say कि ना इसके अंदर क्या होता है कि टू सेक्शंस होते हैं, these refers to the two sections, and these are basically present on each side of the coding sequence on a strand of messenger RNA. अगर तो 5 prime region है तो it is known as 5 UTR, whereas if the 3 prime side, then it is known as 3 UTR. So these were all the types of the overlapping gene. So this was all for today's lecture, and I hope that you have understand about this overlapping gene and its functions. And if you want to study further about these overlapping genes, then you can see the references, and you can go through these references and make you understand this. Uh, Thank you for watching. Allah Hafiz.